There's a psychological switch that flips inside your brain when you hit a very specific financial milestone, and most people have absolutely no idea it's coming. One day, you're scraping together change for gas money, calculating whether you can afford the good peanut butter, or if you're stuck with the store brand that tastes like cardboard, mixed with sadness. Then suddenly, without any dramatic fanfare or life-changing event, something fundamental shifts in how you move through the world. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You make decisions from a completely different place in your mind. It's not about becoming wealthy or joining some exclusive club of rich people. It's about crossing an invisible line that separates two entirely different ways of existing. And that line sits at exactly $10,000 in your savings account. My name is Alex, and I've become fascinated by the moments when human psychology collides with mathematics to create these profound transformations that nobody talks about in polite conversation. We discuss salary increases and dream vacations and retirement plans, but we rarely examine the specific dollar amounts where your entire relationship with reality changes overnight. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to glide through financial challenges while others are perpetually stressed about money, even when their incomes are similar, stick around because this might finally explain what you've been observing. Hit that subscribe button if you want to understand the hidden psychology behind financial milestones that actually matter. Before we explore what happens when you cross that $10,000 threshold, let me describe the world you're probably living in right now if you haven't reached it yet. Every purchase becomes a mental negotiation. You're standing in the pharmacy needing cold medicine, and you're actually debating whether the $12 name brand is worth it over the $8 generic version. You're at a restaurant with friends, secretly calculating whether you can afford an appetizer or if ordering one will throw off your grocery budget for the entire week. This constant financial calculus is exhausting in ways that people who've never experienced it simply cannot comprehend. You're not just managing money, you're managing anxiety about money during every single transaction. The mental energy required to constantly evaluate whether you can afford basic necessities creates this low-level stress that follows you everywhere. Your brain develops this hypervigilance around spending that turns routine decisions into complex risk assessments. Should you drive across town to save $3 on groceries? Is it worth paying for parking, or should you circle the block for 20 minutes looking for a free spot? These aren't just practical considerations. They're survival calculations that your nervous system treats as genuine threats. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, your relationship with risk becomes completely distorted. Every decision feels potentially catastrophic because you know there's no cushion to absorb mistakes. Asking for a raise becomes terrifying because what if they fire you instead? Moving to a better apartment feels impossible because what if the moving expenses drain your account? Taking a vacation requires months of careful planning and sacrifice because one unexpected expense could derail everything. But here's where the psychology gets really interesting. The moment you accumulate $10,000, something remarkable happens to your stress response system. Neuroscientists have discovered that financial security literally rewires how your brain processes daily challenges. The same situation that used to trigger fight or flight responses suddenly register as minor inconveniences. Think about the last time your car made that weird noise. That probably means expensive repairs are coming. If you're living without savings, that sound activates the same neural pathways as physical danger. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your mind immediately starts catastrophizing about how you'll pay for whatever's wrong. You're not just hearing a car problem, you're hearing the sound of potential financial ruin. But when you have $10,000 sitting in your account, that exact same car noise triggers a completely different response. You're still annoyed, obviously, but your nervous system stays calm because your brain knows you can handle whatever comes next. This isn't just about having money to fix the car. It's about your entire physiology responding differently to uncertainty. The transformation goes deeper than most people realize. When you're constantly worried about money, you make worse decisions across every area of life. Financial stress impairs your cognitive function, disrupts your sleep patterns, and compromises your immune system. You're literally less intelligent, less creative, and less healthy when you're operating from a place of financial scarcity. Removing that underlying stress doesn't just improve your bank account, it improves your brain function. Suddenly you have mental bandwidth available for strategic thinking instead of just reactive problem solving. You start noticing opportunities that were always there but invisible when you were focused on survival. You become more creative about increasing your income because you're not using all your mental energy just trying to cover your basic expenses. There's something else that happens at the $10,000 milestone that changes everything about how you navigate through life. The majority of unexpected expenses that derail people financially fall below this threshold. Car repairs, medical bills, temporary job loss, family emergencies, most of these situations can be handled with less than $10,000. This means crossing this milestone makes you essentially immune to the financial disaster that keep most people trapped in the paycheck to paycheck cycle. You're not rich, you can't retire tomorrow, but you've effectively eliminated the most common causes of financial catastrophe from your life. That's a level of security that creates ripple effects you probably never anticipated. Your confidence changes in ways that extend far beyond money decisions. When you know you can handle unexpected expenses, you carry yourself differently in job interviews. You're more willing to negotiate salary because you're not desperate for any offer they give you. You can afford to walk away from bad deals because you're not operating from a place of fear. This confidence often translates into better opportunities, higher compensation, and stronger relationships. People are drawn to individuals who seem secure and self-assured. They don't necessarily know you have money saved, but they can sense that you're not operating from desperation, and that makes you more attractive as an employee, business partner, or friend. The psychological transformation also changes how you think about money itself. Instead of viewing every dollar as precious and finite, you start understanding that money can actually work for you. Before you have savings, spending money feels like losing something forever. But when you have a financial foundation, you begin seeing money as a tool that can create more opportunities and generate returns. This shift in perspective is where people typically start getting interested in concepts like investing, side hustles, and passive income streams. Not because they suddenly became financial experts, but because they finally have the mental space to think beyond just covering their immediate needs. When you're not constantly worried about rent money, you can start wondering about building wealth for the future. The identity shift that occurs during this process might be the most important transformation of all. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles with money and start identifying as someone who successfully manages their finances. This isn't just positive thinking or mindset coaching, it's a fundamental change in how you approach every financial decision going forward. When you see yourself as someone who saves money consistently, you automatically start noticing expenses you can eliminate without feeling deprived. You become more creative about finding additional income sources because your brain is no longer consumed with basic survival calculations. You start thinking in terms of months and years instead of just making it to the next paycheck. This identity transformation creates a positive feedback loop that accelerates your progress. Saving your first $1,000 requires significant willpower and lifestyle adjustments. But by the time you're working toward your seventh or 8,000, the process feels almost effortless because you've already rewired your habits and decision-making patterns. There's a mathematical reality that makes $10,000 particularly powerful as a psychological milestone. This amount covers the vast majority of emergencies that financially destroy people who don't have savings. Engine problems, medical procedures, temporary unemployment, appliance replacements, veterinary emergencies. Most of these situations cost somewhere between $500 and $5,000. Once you cross this threshold, you're effectively protected against the financial shocks that keep millions of people stuck in cycles of debt and stress. You're not invincible. Major medical events or extended unemployment could still challenge your finances, but you've eliminated probably 80% of the unexpected expenses that cause people to spiral into financial chaos. But here's what most people don't anticipate about reaching this milestone. The biggest benefit doesn't come from spending the money on emergencies. It comes from the opportunities that become available when you're not constantly worried about survival. Maybe you hear about a professional certification that costs $2,000 but could increase your salary by $8,000 annually. Without savings, this is impossible to consider. With your financial foundation, it becomes an obvious investment in your future earning potential. Or perhaps a friend mentions they're launching a business and looking for a small investor. Without savings, you can only offer moral support. With $10,000, you have the option to participate in something that could potentially multiply your investment. You don't have to take these opportunities, but having choices feels dramatically different from having no options whatsoever. The confidence boost extends into social situations in ways you might not expect. When you're financially stressed, you often avoid social gatherings because you can't afford to participate fully. You make excuses about being busy when friends suggest dinner out because admitting you can't afford it feels embarrassing. You might decline networking events or professional conferences because the registration fees stretch your budget too thin. But when you have financial security, you can make social decisions based on what you actually want to do rather than what you can afford. This doesn't mean you become reckless with spending. It means you can participate in activities that might advance your career or strengthen your relationships without constantly calculating the financial impacts. Your sleep quality improves dramatically once you cross this threshold. Financial stress is one of the leading causes of insomnia, and removing that underlying anxiety has immediate effects on your rest patterns. You stop lying awake at 3 in the morning, mentally reviewing your bank balance and wondering how you'll handle the next unexpected expense. Better sleep leads to improved cognitive function, which creates you're well rested. You make another positive feedback loop. When better decisions about everything, including money. You have more energy to pursue opportunities that could increase your income. You're more patient with challenging situations instead of making impulsive choices driven by exhaustion and stress. Your relationships change too, though the effects might be subtle at first. Money stress is cited as one of the primary causes of relationship conflicts and divorce. When you're not constantly worried about finances, you have more emotional energy available for the people you care about. You're less irritable, less anxious, and more present during conversations and shared experiences. The transformation affects how you handle workplace dynamics as well. When you know you have several months of expenses saved, you can approach your job from a position of strength rather than desperation. You're more likely to speak up about problems, suggest improvements, or pursue leadership opportunities because you're not terrified of losing your income. This shift in workplace behavior often leads to career advancement that wouldn't have been possible when you were operating from financial fear. Managers notice employees who demonstrate confidence and initiative. They're more likely to consider you for promotions, special projects, or additional responsibilities that come with higher compensation. There's also something fascinating that happens to your spending psychology once you reach this milestone. When you have zero savings, every dollar feels precious because losing it brings you closer to financial disaster. But when you have $10,000 saved, individual dollars start feeling less critical, which actually makes you more strategic about spending money on things that could improve your situation. The person with no savings might skip a $50 professional development workshop because $50 feels significant when you're living paycheck to paycheck. But the person with financial security might attend that same workshop and meet someone who offers them a job opportunity worth thousands more per year. The safety net doesn't make you careless, but it does make you more willing to invest in your potential. This psychological shift creates opportunities for exponential improvement rather than just linear progress. Instead of grinding through the same financial struggles month after month, you start making strategic moves that compound over time. You invest in education, networking, skill development, and other activities that people simply cannot afford to pursue. The beautiful irony is that having money makes it easier to make more money, not because of some unfair advantage, but because financial security allows you to think and act strategically instead of just reactively. When you're not constantly putting out financial fires, you can focus on building something bigger and more sustainable for your future. Most people assume that reaching $10,000 in savings means you're roughly 1% of the way toward becoming wealthy, but that linear thinking completely misses how money psychology actually works. The reality is far more encouraging than most people realize, though it requires a fundamental shift in how you think about financial progress. Here's something that will probably surprise you. The person who successfully saves their first $10,000 has already developed the most crucial skill in wealth building, which isn't earning money, it's keeping money. You've probably encountered people who make impressive salaries but somehow remain perpetually broke. They drive luxury cars, live in expensive apartments, and dine at restaurants where a single meal costs more than some people spend on groceries all week. Yet they have virtually nothing saved. Meanwhile, You might know someone earning a modest $40,000 annually who has managed to accumulate substantial savings through disciplined spending choices. The difference isn't income level, it's mindset. And successfully reaching that $10,000 milestone represents a masterclass in developing the psychological patterns that create lasting financial stability. This is where things get mathematically interesting in ways that most people never consider. That $10,000 sitting in your account isn't just emergency protection, it's proof that you can delay gratification consistently over extended periods. You've demonstrated the ability to distinguish between genuine needs and momentary wants. Most importantly, you've shown you can maintain financial discipline even when faced with countless opportunities to spend money on immediate pleasures. These behavioral patterns become the foundation for every subsequent financial achievement. The habits you developed while saving your first $10,000 automatically scale up as your income increases. Instead of lifestyle inflation consuming every raise or bonus, you naturally allocate portions toward building wealth because saving has become part of your identity rather than a temporary sacrifice. There's a compounding effect that happens beyond just the mathematical growth of your money. Your network begins changing as you become someone who thinks strategically about finances. You start attracting relationships with other people who prioritize financial stability. These connections often lead to better job opportunities, investment ideas, and business partnerships that wouldn't have been available when you were struggling paycheck to paycheck. The transformation also affects how you evaluate risk versus reward in every area of life. When you have financial breathing room, you can afford to be more selective about opportunities instead of desperately accepting whatever comes along. Maybe you receive 2 job offers, one paying slightly more but requiring longer hours in a toxic environment, and another offering better work-life balance with growth potential. Without savings, you might feel pressured to take the higher immediate pay. With security, you can choose the option that serves your long-term interests. So, there you have it. $10,000 isn't just a number on your bank statement, it's a complete psychological transformation that touches every corner of your existence. From sleeping peacefully instead of lying awake calculating bills, to walking into opportunities with genuine confidence rather than desperation, this milestone creates changes most people never see coming. The person you become while building that first $10,000 is infinitely more valuable than the money itself. Start small, stay consistent, and remember that every dollar saved is rewiring your brain for a fundamentally different relationship with the money in life.